So the finale, we'll start with Michael. This season was a lot more serialized than Crystal Fantasy. So now that it's concluding, how do you feel trying the serialized route went overall?
Sorry, what was it? How do I feel about what? Sorry.
How the more serialized route went for YOLO compared
Okay,
to
yeah.
Crystal
So
Fantasy.
it was really, it's much more challenging. Definitely, it was like it had its parts where it was more rewarding too. Uh, but I think right now I'm a little bit serialized out. Like I was just saying before, like to these guys, like if we do another season, if we're lucky enough, I feel like it probably will be less serialized in this season. I love doing it. I think it's really fun, but there's also something really fun about like just the pure episodic stuff where it's just like you can truly jump in whenever and it's an isolated story. So there's pros and cons to both. And it's, it depends what mood you are and how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Like, so it changes, but I feel like we itch that serialization itch in this one.
Yeah, fair. And Sarah and Todd, did this new format change how you went about your performances at all? Did you try and stay more consistent with where they're at the end of each episode, or was it more of how you did it in Crystal Fantasy?
Well, I felt like it was kind of just similar to the way I did it I did in the first season personally. I didn't feel myself sort of becoming serialized, if you would put it that way. But yeah, I just sort of each episode we did, and they do roll into each other. So there might have been bits. I mean, especially when I was working on the music as well, it was sort of all the episodes in a block at one point. It was sort of like I was jumping between episodes, so there was more of a connection, I suppose, for me personally, between all the episodes rather than individual ones at a time. But I guess that was more the workflow rather than getting into character sort of thing. It was just a similar process to the first season for me, just insanity. We just try and keep it insane. Chaos is how I like to. Cusack like to work.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think for me, like, I didn't really think about the serialization because, like, Sarah doesn't know as a character where things are going to go. So she's just in the moment that she's in. So I think as long as you're playing the truth of that moment, then you're sort of doing the right thing. And that said, I think I could also rely on really solid scripts. So the writers knew the journey, and they knew that they were setting up the dominoes that were going to lead to this moment all through the season. So I think I could just trust in what they'd built, and that it sort of would naturally sort of reach the end of this journey that they started her on.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And Michael, Lucas has a lot of development in this season. What made him a character that you really wanted to explore beyond just kind of his original concept?
I was thinking about this before, and I think it's because like with I always want to do a show about like two Aussie girls. Like I've done it for years, like 10 years ago doing the YOLO shorts, but like as I can get only to a certain point of relatability. We've got female writers in the room, like giving all their weird going out with their girlfriend stories, but I probably related more to like the nerd stuff, and like there wasn't really like a way to put that into Sarah and Rachel.
Yeah,
Because they're so specific to the character. And Lucas was like he's another character I've kind of done for years, like also just like well, I mean, in various other aspects he's existed, and there's just something really fun about it because he's so different to Rachel and Sarah. He creates like an interesting kind of offset, and I like his thing with Sarah, his obsession with Sarah. It's a fun thing to play with. And I think like when he says like we're a trio in the second episode, it's like that felt like the energy of season 2. It was like it. I can't. I don't know what else it was other than it just seemed to make sense to have him be in the mix.
definitely.
Yeah, and I think it also stemmed a little bit from. I mean, we were talking about this before. We were almost thinking about life as a role-playing game at the time, and lots of what he says has lots of RPG references.
Yeah.
And there are a few RPG references in the I was about to say in the game, in the show as well. So yeah, I think there was a little bit of that coming out. You know, he's clearly a geek who likes his games, who likes his Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. So yeah, I thought it was great to see Lucas's evolution.
Can
That's
we
awesome.
make a game?
I'd love to make
What's
a
that?
game. Make a card game.
Oh yeah, card
yeah.
game, YOLO card game.
That'd be awesome. And Sarah, how did you feel about Sarah's journey in season 2? You know, with the gardening hobby and exploring friendship and whatnot. How'd you feel about that?
I loved it. Yeah, it's really fun because I'm not in the writer's room, so like I kind of get these scripts, and then that's when I discover what's going to happen with Sarah. And I was really surprised and delighted when I saw the whole garden journey for her. And yeah, we kind of talk a lot about how she's sort of the grounded character in the show, and so it's fun to take that quite literally, and you know, she becomes even more grounded and is all about the garden and the soil. But I've also been saying to these guys that if we go to season 3, I think Sarah needs to party and get her dancing shoes back on.
All right, we'll do it. All right. I completely agree, because like it's another thing. Yeah, like I was saying it before, but this season 2 was made during COVID, so it feels a little bit like kind of the lockdown episode in a way. Like I guess because a lot of it was inspired by what was going on at the time. And I tried to make a garden. A lot of people I know did the same.
Yeah.
And so like if we did do more episodes, I think that would be our big, like, going back out and going back partying and
YOLO world tour.
yeah, exactly. I feel like, you know, we've done the low chill kind of characterization season, and we got that out of our systems. But I think if we got to do more, it'd be like bigger and kind of like more about like the, you know, what the show's about, like the partying and stuff.
Awesome. And Todd, you know, Rachel spends a lot of time with Lucas in this season, and what's fun about that is she seems more like subdued annoyed by Lucas. She's not really over the top. She's just kind of really realistically bothered. What was voicing those interactions like?
I love doing that because I feel like whenever I'm associating with Lucas, I think Rachel has a soft spot for Lucas. I really do. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because he's clearly a little bit of an outcast, but every time I'm doing the voice, even if I'm screaming at him, there's something where I feel like they're friends, you know? And again, Rachel would not admit that, but she's happy to go along. Like she would very clearly say, absolutely not. I'm not going on this quest with you or whatever into the B dungeon or wherever the hell else they're going. But yeah, she's always up for the quest or for wherever Lucas is going. And I think she has a soft spot for Lucas. So I feel that coming out when I'm doing the voice.
I love that. Like, the Rachel and Lucas dynamic is so fun. It's kind of like when George Costanza is with Elaine on an episode. It's like they both only are together because they have like an anchor point as Jerry. But like it's just funny that Lucas and Rachel are both kind of obsessed with Sarah. And yeah, I think
Todd, that's such a real thing too. like two acquaintances.
Todd, you said like they're both kind of toxic relationships. Like Lucas and Sarah and Rachel and Sarah. So Sarah really gets the brunt of it. But yeah, I love seeing the two together.
But they also come from a town where like it's small enough that you can't really cut people out completely in the way that like in cities people just get rid of people because you're never going to see them again. But in those towns, like it's very common that you do have these people around that you find annoying, but they're going to be there all the time. So
that is the classic tale of Wollongong. And I mean, it is a city. It is a city, but it feels like a town. It really does. You can't escape somebody who you might want to. You're always just 1 degree separated from somebody, even if you move down, you know, away from
mutual
it,
Facebook friends.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Michael, you know, Rachel kind of lives a whole life in the finale in the same way that Sarah did in season 1. How intentional was that?
I don't know if it was intentional. It's funny you say that. I think I
That's
noticed
well
that
put,
after more. I'm not. Yeah, I think we're just fulfilling what we set up with the visions, where like you know, Rachel wanting to become empress, Sarah wanting a garden, you know, the Empress thing, like from the start, is always going to be like Rachel's chosen a path of death and loss and disappointment, and just seeing how that went for Rachel. But yeah, I think it kind of worked out in a fun way where it sort of was an opposite to what happened in season one. I think it was just a happy accident.
Nice. And Sarah, there's some really touching moments in the finale between Sarah and Rachel. Is it hard to kind of pivot from the outlandish comedy to the more heartfelt moments, or is that pretty natural?
I think it's pretty as long as you keep it, as long as it's not forced, you can kind of just feel it. Like if it feels right and you're not like, there's some shows you watch and like if sometimes it feels like it's a note, like a network note to make something more emotional. It almost feels forced. I think with this, we try to do it organically, as organically as possible, and maybe it feels right to us, and maybe it's cringe to other people, but it doesn't really matter, I guess, to us because we know it feels authentic. So I think that's why it works for us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I think
Sarah,
the best
that's the
comedy
same.
comes from heart. Yeah, I think the best comedy comes from like heart. When there's real heart, it's not just funny for the sake of it. And I think this has it in spades, but I don't think you guys set out to do it, which is what makes it really interesting. I think you want to make something really funny, and the heart's just there because you're trying to be true and authentic. But I don't think you're starting from that point, which I think is what makes this fun.
Yeah, and like some shows, like there's such a benefit to doing like the no hugging, no learning thing. Like that's the
Yeah,
Seinfeld kind of rule. Like we do that in Smiling Friends, and we try to stick to that, and it's like
yeah.
it's an aspect that really helps the comedy of that show. But I think the way I see YOLO is it's a bit of an excuse to be cringe. Like that's why, like I was fine with dressing up as Sarah and dancing and having the emotional beats. It's like YOLO is like an excuse to kind of do anything, like not really have rules. That goes for the animation too. It kind of changes. It's weird. It's whatever feels right at the time. So
That's how
yeah.
I felt doing the music as well, and I think that's why I felt comfortable with it when Cusack asked me to do it, because Brendan, who did this music for the first season, was busy on Koala Man at the time. So I got asked to do the music, and I think I was only comfortable in the sense that it's like, yeah, I can just make cringy stuff. Like I felt like all the music I made in the past was cringy anyway, so I sort of just just applied it to what was happening, and that's why I think it felt good the whole way.
Embracing cringe, that's definitely the log line of YOLO.
The whole cringe but free
that's
mindset.
actually
Yeah.
yeah, that's actually season 3. It's called that.
Yeah,
YOLO, embracing cringe.
Oh man, that's perfect. And Todd, you get to give those emotional cringe moments, but at the same time you're doing that really intense kind of nasty voice. Is it hard to get it through that voice, or is that like a fun challenge?
It's a fun challenge. That's the toughest Rachel lines are the emotional ones always, because it's very left of it's not, she's not usually very in touch with her emotions. And in fact, those scenes that you'll see in the finale, they were done without Cusack directing at the time. Actually, it was just sort of, it was me talking to me, basically. So it was really fun actually to do myself and really get into the roots of the character. Yeah, and I think I think it came out. I think you still get like Rachel can tug at your heartstrings, when need be. I just have to get stuck in a little bit more and get in the headspace, because mostly it's just disgusting and yelling and this and that, But yeah, it was really fun to do.
Awesome. And my last question, Michael and both of you is, since this is the second season, now that it's coming to an end, you did those fun promos with the live action ones and the animated ones and the behind the scenes stuff. How do you feel about the whole journey of this season outside of the show itself? Like, how has it been for you guys now that you're a bit more used to it?
For me, super satisfying and less stressful than season one, because season one of anything's harder because you're really building it from the ground up, and this one we already had a reference point of season one to work off, and I put like when I was starting out with season one, I was kind of still adapting to being like a YouTuber, to going to like working with crews, so it was it was a learning curve for me. But season 2, I put a lot of trust in our super talented crew and our writers and everything, and it it was extremely rewarding to kind of not be so kind of like micromanagey and just
Mhm.
get stuff back and be just so pleasantly surprised. So it was yeah, it was really fun. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I feel I feel super satisfied as well. It's sort of I can see that it feels like it's reached a wider audience this time as well. Maybe it's because they're drumming up a little bit of tension of releasing it week by week sort of thing. But yeah, it's been really positive, and whenever I love seeing all the fan art and posts about it and stuff like that. It's yeah, it's been, and getting to know everybody on the team at the studio, because I was managing the studio, was just fantastic. Like, it was so much fun. We have such a bigger team, and now there's so many more people that I'm friends with, and so many fantastic artists that I met along the way. So yeah, it's been just fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's been part of it for me as well, as the community around YOLO, whether it's the fans or the people that work on it. And I haven't met a lot of, the artists, but like we now follow each other on like Instagram, and like we're always kind of like looking at each other's posts, and I think that's really fun. And also, like, for me, this is just such a dream job. It's a great show. The script is great. I love this character. I really love playing like the straight character in amongst a lot of chaotic characters. So this is just a really fun job for me. And it's also just fun to like hang out with Michael and Todd. And like, I saw Michael recently in LA, and Todd and I are going to catch up tomorrow here in Melbourne. And it's really cool when you can work with your friends.